Hey everybody, Weston here with the Hidden Gibbon, and today I'm back with the third installment of historical figures as commanders. And much like the first two, I will be giving you a little bit of fun facts about each of the people, based on stuff I learned in college and things like that, and my own personal interest, as well as giving you their native pronunciations and spellings of each person. I do want to let you know, as always, I am not a native speaker of most of these languages, and so I will do my best to be as respectful as possible towards them. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. And in at number one, we have Tomoe Gozen Onamusha. Tomoe Gozen, who was an Onamusha, or female samurai, during the Genpei War. She was very famous for being an extremely skilled combatant. She was skilled in archery, swordsmanship, and was a skilled horse rider. And she was actually famous for beheading enemy commanders in battle. She was very loyal to her lord and would just absolutely own, for lack of a better word. And to represent just how fantastically skilled this woman was on the battlefield for Tomoe Kosen Onamusha, we made her a 3/3, and we did make her pretty pushed. She costs 1 generic, 1 red, and 1 white. She has first strike and then Bushido 2, which means if she is blocked or if she blocks, she gets +2/+2. And then she has Peerless Duelist, which is when Tomoe attacks, choose a creature the defending player controls. That creature must block Tomoe if able, and Tomoe cannot be blocked by any additional creatures this combat. So this is kind of like that headhunter sort of theme behind her, where she's going to find the enemy commander, if you will, and then fight that person and kill them. And then the second part of her ability is whenever a creature dealt combat damage by Tomoe dies, this turn, it's supposed to say on your turn, untap her, and there's an additional combat phase. So if she manages to kill the thing that she is dueling against, it's going to give you another combat phase to do that again. She would be an excellent Voltron commander, or yeah, Voltron overall. But you can put counters on her, multiple combat steps. Overall, just a very good combat-based commander. The one weakness she has is she has nothing to protect her, right? So no ward, no hexproof, nothing like that. She is still pushed, but that's what we have for her. Next, we have ourselves Queen Sunduk of the Silla Kingdom. Now, Queen Sunduk was the first reigning queen of the Silla Kingdom. Silla is a kingdom that existed before what we know as the modern nation of Korea. It is an ancient kingdom that I believe was in the southern central portion of the Korean peninsula. And she was well known for being a wise and very thoughtful ruler. She commissioned, I'm gonna do the best I can, she commissioned Chomsongdae, which is one of Asia's oldest observatories. I actually want to see it when we go to Korea. I got to see like pictures and stuff of it at one of the museums we went to, but I have not gotten to see it in person yet. And then she helped stabilize the kingdom and keep the realm like good and stable, and promoted learning and growth and things. So for her, we made her a 1/3 for 1 generic and Azorius. She does have Ward 1, and I tried to make her really push like a CDH style command. And she has Celestial Insight, which is whenever you scry, draw a card. And then whenever you draw your second card each turn, untap up to 2 permanents. Yes, 2 permanents, any type of permanents. And if you would draw a card while you have 8 or more cards in hand, draw 2 cards instead. So what she does is she stabilizes your realm, creates bounty and prosperous stuff. The scry is to kind of like theme in with the observatory at Chomsongdae, and just really get that in there. Like I said, wanted to do a really powerful command. In at number 3, we have Fu Hao, Shang general. And Fu Hao was a general during the Shang period of China, ancient China. She was said to have commanded 13,000 soldiers. She was married to a king of the Shang dynasty. She campaigned against multiple threats to their realm. Her tomb was said to have large weapons and sacrifices, which was not common for a woman of her era. And she is one of the very first female military leaders that we know of in history. She commanded men and troops, led them into battle, and did an extraordinary job at it. And so we represent her and her Shang heritage with being a 4/5, 2 generic, and Rakdos. She has Menace, and then Oracle of War. So in the Shang dynasty, they used Oracle Bones to kind of predict things, so I wanted to tap that flavor in here. And she has Oracle of War, so whenever you attack, look at the top 5 cards of your library, put any number of warrior creatures from among them onto the battlefield tapped and attacking, and then put the rest in your graveyard. Whenever a creature enters attacking, it gains +1/+0 for each other attacking creature. So the goal behind this is to just build up. And warriors are not a very common creature type that is supported in Magic. And so being able to give this like a warrior commander where you're trying to build up a larger and larger army, getting more powerful for more warriors that you have, I think it's just a really interesting concept. Next, we have ourselves King Pyrrhus of Epirus. King Pyrrhus was from the kingdom of Epirus, and he is famous for commanding war elephants, invading the Italian peninsula and invading Rome. He is actually, if you've ever heard the term Pyrrhic victory, that is where this comes from. He won victories against the Romans that were so costly that it nearly undid him. In fact, a famous quote, and the one I used for the flavor text here, is, "If we are victorious in one more battle with the Romans, we shall be utterly ruined." And that's really what happened. He won the victories, but it was so costly that it wasn't even worth winning. And then he was considered one of the greatest generals of his time, right? He was a very, very strong commander, very good commander, was able to beat the Romans at a time where the Romans were up and coming. And so to represent him, we made him a 5/3 for 2 generic, and then, is it Mardu? Yes, Mardu. He has Flash, and then Pyrrhic Victory. When Pyrrhus enters, destroy all creatures your opponents control, and 3/4, so you got to do some math, of creatures you control, rounded down. Put 2 1/1 counters on each creature you control. So you're going to win, your troops are going to get more experienced, but your troops are also going to die. The reason I made him Mardu is so that inside the functioning of Magic, right, Mardu colors are very good for aristocrats, so sacrificing or destroying some of your own creatures is going to be a benefit, right? And destroying 3/4 of yours still lets you choose. And then the ones that are left get to be more powerful. Next, we have Arminius, Deceiver of Romans. Arminius was a Germanic leader during the Roman era. He is famous for the Battle of Teutoburg Forest, where he led an ambush that destroyed 3 Roman legions under General Varus. During the reign of Augustus. And, with that, he was raised by the Romans, so he knew their tactics. He fought in Illyria under the Roman army, so he understood, and then he returned to his lands in Germania, led the Romans into this large trap at Teutoburg, destroyed those legions, and this victory was so like shocking that the Romans never permanently settled Germania ever again. In fact, but I do want to let you know, they did seek retribution for this, and they did destroy a lot of Germanic tribes in the years following this. It wasn't like he won a permanent victory, and he himself then tried to go on to rule the Germanic tribes, and he was assassinated. That's how he ended. But for a card, I wanted to really like encapsulate, him at his high moment, the Battle of Teutoburg. So he's a 4/4 for 4 with Death Touch and Ambush in Teutoburg. You may cast creature spells as though they have flash whenever an opponent declares attackers against you. So kind of leading them into that ambush. And whenever a creature enters under your control during combat, it fights target attacking creatures. So how this would work mechanically is your opponent declares an attacker. We're going to say a Badger Mole Cub here. Turns sideways and attacks you. You can then play something with flash. Say I play this Mutagen Man, right? Play it in. It's bigger than the Badger Mole Cub. It's immediately going to fight a creature, an attacking creature, and kill it. And then, you know, if the attacking creature's dead, the attack doesn't go through. So in a way, it's kind of like stopping them before they can even hit you. Kind of like that ambush. That's really what I was going for. Let me know if I've like hit the flavor for this just right. Next, because I really like the movie Kingdom of Heaven, we have Baldwin the Fourth, King of Jerusalem. Baldwin was the king of the Crusader state of Jerusalem during the Third Crusade. He famously had leprosy, which is a disease where, in essence, you're slowly rotting away. Your own body is just like dissolving on you. It's terrible. You know, it's mentioned in the Bible and antiquity. Luckily, leprosy has been wiped out in most areas of the world and can be cured if caught early. He, when he was young, defeated Saladin at Montegard. I think, no, Montgisard. Sorry. Again, not a native speaker and can't read my own handwriting sometimes. And he was known for like holding the kingdom together and holding on to things despite his disease. And so I wanted to kind of really encapsulate the fact that not only did he have this disease that was slowly killing him, but also the fact that he was able to hold his kingdom together in spite of that. And so we have him represented as Baldwin IV, King of Jerusalem. And he's a 1/4 for 1 generic, 1 white, 1 black. I know a lot of 3 drops in this cycle. He has cumulative upkeep, lose 1 life. So the first upkeep he's out there, you lose 1. The next upkeep, 2. The next upkeep, 3. The next upkeep, 4. So, you know, the leprosy is slowly killing you. He has lifelink, and he has Martyr King, which is you may assign damage dealt to other creatures you control to Baldwin instead. And whenever Baldwin is dealt damage, generate that many white 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. And whenever Baldwin dies, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. So this is a very interesting thing to do here, right? So if somebody attacks in, you can have the damage dealt to Baldwin instead, dealing, say, you know, say my friend Mitch crashes in with a crash for like 20, and I block it with some other creature. I have it deal 20 damage to Baldwin. Baldwin will die, and I will get 20 1/1 soldiers. So like that Iron Will, sacrificing himself for his kingdom. I think it's a really unique and interesting play on like the white black like Orsov style token decks, right? It's not a traditional way to make tokens. Next, this is our other commander I chose from the Third Crusade, and this is Richard the Lionheart. Richard the Lionheart was the English king during the Third Crusade. He was a warrior king. He famously was like the antithesis to Saladin at that time. They fought battles against each other. He didn't spend hardly any of his time in England. He nearly bankrupted the crown, spending it all on campaigns for Crusade and then his French campaigns. And then he eventually died in France. He actually was shot in the neck with a crossbow. I believe the tale goes he was shot by a cook. Yeah, shot by a cook and ended that way. And that so ended Richard the Lionhearted. But we really wanted to get the knight aspect of him. And so we have him as Richard the Lionheart, 4/4 for 3 generic, 1 red, 1 white. He has double strike, and he has French campaign. Whenever Richard attacks, another target knight you control gets +3/+3 until end of turn. And sacrifice a knight you control. Richard the Lionheart gains indestructible until end of turn. Tap Richard the Lion. This one's a little bit more generic, but it encapsulates how he was kind of running rampant all over France until he took that crossbow to the neck, right? He was willing to sacrifice his knights in many wars, and yeah, just kind of, he was a warrior king. He was known to fight as well. Next, we're going to bring it back to the past again, and this time with Plato, philosopher. And so Plato was a student of Socrates, another Greek philosopher. He himself was a Greek philosopher. He founded something called the Academy, which is one of the first universities that we know of in Western civilization. And then he created the theory of forms, which I'm gonna put a screenshot of what that is on the screen, because when I was reading about the theory of forms, it's essentially like that the physical world we see isn't reality or something like that, but a reflection of something like abstract forms. I don't know, but you know what? Another fun fact about him is he is the guy who made up the tale of Atlantis. And yes, it is a tale. Atlantis was not real. It was an allegory for Athens and all of that fun stuff, okay? I know. Younger me would cringe at older me for not believing in Atlantis. And then he also was a teacher to Aristotle, also a famous philosopher. And he is represented here as Plato philosopher. He is a 2/5 for 2 generic and Azorius. He has the ability forms. At the beginning of your upkeep, choose an idea: knowledge, justice, or order. If you choose knowledge, you get to draw a card. If you choose justice, exile target creature power 3 or greater. Or if you choose order, tap all creatures with power greater than their toughness. Kind of like the philosophy around his theory of forms is order and things like that. So that's the based on the best way I could understand his theory of forms. This is what I made for his card. And then next, we wouldn't be complete without another inventor and philosopher. We have Archimedes, master inventor. Now, Archimedes is famous for the word eureka, and then he was the inventor of many war machines, some a little bit more historically dubious than others, like the Tales of Archimedes' Death Ray, which is a light thing that would set Roman ships on fire, or Archimedes, I think it's crane, which were crane things on the walls of Syracuse that could grab ships, and we don't know what those things were. They were probably something, right? Like the Archimedes Death Ray was actually probably something, if I had to guess, as somebody who's an avid lover of history, my guess is that they would be reflective metal, shined to be like mirrors, and rather than light people on fire or anything like that, what it would probably do is that it would be bright and kind of blind, not like permanently, but like blind incoming troops, right? Think of like if a mirror or something reflects light into your eyes, so that way they couldn't fire back, during a siege. But sadly, he lived in the city of Syracuse, and it was eventually sieged by the Romans. And when the Romans were conquering it, a Roman soldier actually killed him. I believe he got pushed down the stairs. He was supposed to be captured, right? He's a wise inventor. They kind of wanted him as an asset, right? But he died. He was killed by the Romans. And his genius and stuff is represented as a 3/5 for 2 generic, double blue and a red. He has Solar Array, which is whenever you cast a non-creature artifact spell with converted mana cost of 4 or higher, it should be greater. This is why I'll never work in Wizards R&D. Choose 1. Archimedes deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to any target. So, like if you cast Dark Steel Forge for 9, it would deal 9 damage to any target. Or you can copy target artifact you control with converted mana cost of 3 or less, or so there's those two, and then there's the ability Death Ray. Tap 5 artifacts you control, exile target creature. This guy can actually be super, super strong if you run like a treasure. I envision this as being a treasures and big artifacts deck, right? So you cast your big things like your Mystical Forge, your Dark Steel Forge, etc. All those big things, and they're non-creature artifacts. So you're not going to be dropping like a Blightsteel Colossus, right? And then Death Ray, tapping all your little dorky artifacts to be able to exile something. Next, we have Cleopatra, Master of Diplomacy. Now, Cleopatra was a member of the Ptolemaic dynasty, the Macedonian leaders that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander. And she was actually the last Ptolemaic ruler of Egypt. It was then absorbed into the Roman Empire. She spoke multiple languages, which was uncommon for rulers of the time. You see, the Ptolemies were Macedonian, and they predominantly spoke only Greek. That is what they spoke. But Cleopatra went out of her way to learn the native language as well. She was a very intelligent individual, understood what it took to rule her people, and then she was an excellent negotiator. I know that you'll always hear the like propaganda about her just being a seductress and things like that. That is beyond reductionist. Any historian worth their salt will tell you that she was a master with diplomacy. Was had to navigate a lot of different things during her reign, and I think given the situation that she was put in, she made the calls that she had to make. But she was definitely an incredibly interesting character. And she is represented here as Cleopatra, Master of Diplomacy, 2/2 for one generic, one blue, and one black. That Demir aspect playing off that like really good intrigue and diplomacy. She has Ward, sacrifice a creature. She has Diplomatic Intrigue. Whenever an opponent draws a card other than their first each turn, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card and put an influence counter on Cleopatra. Then you can remove 3 influence counters from Cleopatra, gain control of target non-land permanent with converted mana cost of 3 or less. So, this is very much that like that diplomatic intrigue, gaining control of things is really interesting. I think she could be on the higher end of power. This would be a good thing to play stuff like Howling Mine and stuff, and then start stealing people's mana rocks, all of their resource engines, right? It's not big enough to like steal their commanders or their big bombs, but you can deny the assets that they need to get those things. Next, we have Trajan. Although Jays did not exist at this time, so is Trajan, or Trajanus. And he was a Kaiser of Rome. You would say Caesar in America, but in original Latin, it was Kaiser. And Trajanus is known as one of the 5 good emperors, famous for bringing about the greatest amount of expansion to the Roman Empire during his reign, and then also funded massive amounts of public works projects, from forums to roads to more aqueducts. He truly did stabilize and showed he was an example of what the very best of Roman rulers could be. And to exemplify that expansionism, we made him a 5/6. He is Trajan, Kaiser of Rome, and he is a X, 2 red, 2 white. Now that is not cheap, right? Not cheap at all. He has vigilance, and he has Might of the Legions. When Trajan enters, create X/1/1 red and white legionnaire creature tokens with vigilance, where X is the amount of mana spent to cast Trajan. Right? That makes sense. And then you can pay 3 and 2 red and 1 white and create a 2/2 red and white Centurion creature token with legionnaires you control get +1/+1. That expansion of the legions, expansion of the empire. I would say he's a more lower tier one because of his cost. Especially in Boros, it's harder to ramp. And then last, kind of to show the duality of Rome here. So we had one of the great emperors. Now we have one of the very worst. We have Nero, the Mad Emperor. And Nero was known for being paranoid and tyrannical, right? Kind of like Caligula. He has a lot of legend and rumor around him, right? There's the myth that Rome burned and that he fiddled and that he started the fire, although that is dubious at best. That is definitely going to be like mostly probably propaganda. The fire probably started. He just, wasn't able to do anything about it. He was obsessed with art and performance. He had these two giant famous barges that he had built. And he was eventually killed by his own Praetorian Guard. He was so paranoid that he drove the people around him to betray him. They might not have originally, but they were driven to betray him. And so Nero, the Mad Emperor here, is a 1/2 for 3 generic and Rakdos. He has Menace. And I wanted to play off that myth, so we have Rome is burning. Whenever a permanent other than Nero is destroyed, yours or an opponent's, put a ruin counter on it instead of putting it into the graveyard. It loses all abilities and cannot be sacrificed, and becomes an artifact in addition to its other types. If it is a creature, it cannot attack or block. If it is a land, it taps for 1 colorless instead of any other type or amount it could produce. And then, at the beginning of each end step, Nero deals damage to each player equal to the number of ruin counters on permanents they control. And then a player may pay 3 to exile permanent they control with a ruin counter on it. So he is here, he brings destruction, and he punishes everyone. Think of this as like a supercharged group slug commander. Just absolutely ruining everything, right? Turning people's creatures, including his own, into useless trash. Turning their lands into useless trash. And yeah. Yep. That's Nero for you. Paranoid, terrible emperor, destabilized the empire. But yeah. So those are my historical figures as commanders today. Let me know what you think of them in the comments down below. Like I said, some of them are a little hyper-tuned. Let me know what you think of the flavor. Did I get it right for some of them? Did I get it wrong? I really love this series. Even if they got 0 views from anyone, I'm just going to keep going with it because I love history so much, and it's a way for me to combine my love of history and my love of magic. But as always, I am Weston with the Hidden Gibbon, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.